Well, I've been as critical as anybody of George Stephanopoulos of ABC News after that debacle when he had to admit that he had not disclosed that he donated $75,000 to the Clinton Foundation, and who was on this week on Sunday? Hillary Rodham Clinton, who, of course, Stephanopoulos worked with in the Clinton White House. But I have to say, I said on the air that I thought he did a pretty good job. He actually asked her a lot of tough questions, went over a lot of negative stuff. But some of you didn't agree. Here's Bill Vincent in Florida saying, I was shocked when you referred to George Stephanopoulos' interview on This Week as pretty tough. Did we see the same interview? I point out in particular her response to George's question about telling her daughter and the Egyptian prime minister that the Benghazi attack was made by terrorists and the movie had nothing to do with it. But then later, telling the family of those killed the attack was caused by a movie response. Hillary said, I testified before Congress for 11 hours, answered all those questions, not true. But then she said, we learned the next day after the Benghazi attacks that the terrorist narrative was not true, and they retracted it. Who is they? And who called her and told her to change the narrative for the Benghazi families? If George had conducted a fairly tough interview, don't you think he would have followed up and asked her that? Well, it sounds to me like you mostly didn't like Hillary's answers, because what Stephanopoulos did was he set Hillary Clinton up for the question by playing video of a couple of the family members of those victims calling her a liar. That is tough stuff. He also asked her about the email controversy, which Charlie Rose did not in his CBS interview. And he asked her about, the honesty and trustworthy question that has dogged her in just about every poll over the last 6, 7, 8 months. And of course, pressed her on ISIS and her strategy, what she would do and how she differs from President Obama. Now, in an interview, because I've interviewed a lot of presidential candidates, you don't have time to follow up 4, 5, 6 times on every question because you have a limited amount of time. You have subjects you want to get to. So you're entitled to your view that maybe you think that he didn't press her as much. And I certainly think, there is a perception problem with Stephanopoulos having become famous working in the Clinton White House. But he did actually conduct, if you just looked at the transcript, you didn't know who had done it, you'd say that was a pretty good interview. And so I have to give Stephanopoulos credit on that.